Good afternoon, and welcome to our Chiefs briefing for the February 10th, 2026 special election. Thanks for serving as a chief or an assistant chief here in the special election. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. My name is Sean Rogers, and I serve as our training and operations manager here in the Office of Elections. And over the next hour to an hour and a half, I and a couple of our staff members here will be covering some updates related to this special election and some general reminders and procedures for you here today. Before we get into that, though, I do want to mention that I'm happy to be presenting this briefing on behalf of our electoral board, which consists of our chairman, Kate Hanley, our secretary, Kevin Pinkney, and our newest member of the electoral board, vice chairman, Megan Challender. As you may know, electoral boards in Virginia are required to consist of a majority of the same party as the governor. With a new governor in office, we have lost one of our board members. They've rolled off the board and gained a new board member. So we say thank you to Jeff Shapiro for his service to the voters of Fairfax County, and welcome to Megan as our newest member. I'm also happy to present this briefing on behalf of our General Registrar, Eric Spicer, and our Deputy General Registrar, Cheryl Jones. Like I said, my name is Sean Rogers, and I'll be presenting a portion of this briefing today, as well as our Clerk to the Electoral Board, Beth Methvessel, our Election Officer Manager, Arash Setiyeshi, and our Training and Operations Specialist, Gene Tenson. We'll be talking about a couple of different topics, and we'll jump right into it here. For our agenda, I'll cover an overview of this election and what's new. Nice thing is there isn't much that's new because we don't like changing things on you when we have multiple special elections back to back. Then we're going to cover some reminders and tips for before Election Day, opening the polls during the day, reminders for non-routine and provisional voters, and then get to closing the polls and finally Q&A, if any. Throughout this briefing, at any time, please feel free to submit questions for the Q&A at the end, and we'll answer them as we're going if we can. There's a Q&A feature in Zoom. Please submit your questions through that and not the chat. So let's jump into it. For this election, as always, everything you're going to want to know is going to be in your Chief's notebook. One caveat, though. We have multiple, you may or may not already be aware, we have multiple back-to-back special elections here in Fairfax County going on right now. We did two special elections in January, one on January 13th and one on January 20th. We have this special election, February 10th, and then we have one on March 3rd, and then we may have more beyond that. So I don't say this to confuse everyone. I just say this to let you know that your Chief's notebook is going to say January on it. It's not because we don't appreciate the fact that the election is in February, but more so for other reasons. You know, we get a discount when we print higher volumes of our notebooks, and we have a lot of constraints on our turnaround time between them. But don't worry, all the content's still going to be applicable and good for February. We did one notebook for January elections that does not contain specific dates. So we would ordinarily say, you know, on this date, you should do this. On this date, you should do that. It's more generic. You should have already been getting updates from us by email, and we'll continue to send those out to you with reminders as we get closer to the election. The other nice thing is we already have these notebooks printed and ready. So we have them here in the Office of Elections if you're interested in getting your notebook early, but they will be packed in your Chief's kit, the black kit, for every chief and assistant chief, and it's also available online on the election officer portal. As always, we'd suggest that you familiarize yourself with the contents before Election Day, because that's going to help you remember or help you know what to refer to when you need it. You don't have to memorize a lot of things because we have checklists for everything. So you don't have to, and I'm not suggesting that you try to memorize everything on our one-page guides. As you can see, we have one-page guides for before Election Day, opening the polls during the day, and closing the polls, as well as a checklist for opening and closing for the chief. The whole reason we make checklists is so that you don't have to memorize things. You can hand these out to your election officers and have them to refer to when you get to this specific task. We do encourage you to hand them out to your election officers before they're going to need to be doing those tasks. We'll talk about that a little bit later when we talk about Election Day itself. But most importantly, you know, these checklists exist for a reason. We want you to be able to follow the procedure and not have to think too hard about it, or at least not have to worry about whether or not you're doing the procedure the correct way. That's why we have a checklist. So follow these, and if you have any issues or anything that, you know, the checklist isn't working out for you, or something out of the ordinary happens, give our office a call, and we're always happy to help you through it. So for an overview of this election, what even is this election? So the office holder, Adam Eben, for the 39th State Senate District resigned recently, which triggered a special election in that district. Uh, this is actually a shared district with the city of Alexandria and Arlington County, a part of Arlington County, as well as a part of Fairfax County. We have 7 precincts participating, and that's all of you here with us today. And on the ballot is one contest, the representative for the 39th District of the Senate of Virginia, with 2 candidates on the ballot, as well as the option for a write-in. I will mention that with this special election, just like with any other special election and any primary election, registered voters who are currently 17 but will be 18 by the time of the next general election are eligible to vote. They may be registered already because they already took care of their registration, or they may actually be a same-day registration if they're not already registered. It's a little caveat, and if you have any issues with that, feel free to give our office a call because it doesn't always apply, and it doesn't apply in November elections. So that's one thing on the ballot. It's a short ballot. For your resource allocation, you'll have generally the same equipment that you're used to, 3 to 5 electronic poll books, depending on the size of your precinct and the number of voters we would expect, as well as 2 each for ballot marking devices, scanners, and admin tablets. You'll have ballots for 15 to 20% of your active voters, just based on what we expect for turnout in special elections like this, as well as 5 to 6 total election officers, including the chief, the assistant chief, 1 to 2 collector officers, and then all remaining officers. With respect to ballots, we'll talk about this later as we talk about during the day. But because we are giving you 15 to 20% ballots for your voters, that makes our turnout surveys as important as ever. I'll say more important because we want to make sure that you're not going to run out of ballots. Special elections are always hard to predict the turnout, though we try our best to do a good job and we don't think you're going to run out of ballots. But you telling us what your turnout is throughout the day is helpful for us to know that you're not on track to do so, and we can bring you more if needed. So that's an overview of the election. Like I said, there are 7 participating precincts. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what's new and what's specific for this election. One thing that's new for this part of the county is that we won't have our normal supply and return depots in operation for this election. For a number of logistical reasons and constraints, we will only have the Fairfax County Government Center for supply pickup next Monday and supply return on Tuesday. What this means for you is that that's your only option to come pick up your supplies and return them on election night. So it may be a longer drive than normal. And we thank you for being willing to come and make this drive here at the Government Center in a small special election like this. Don't be alarmed. We will have our depots in larger elections, but in small special elections like this, it's just not something we're really able to do or would particularly be feasible. Keep this in mind when you pick up supplies next Monday, because you may have a bit of a drive to your polling place from the Government Center here. Additionally, as I hope you're already aware, we don't have the election officer portal in use for this election. So a lot of the dynamic information you would generally see there, including specific information for your polling place, as well as your election officer roster, is not going to show there. Generally, we would keep that updated live so that you can see anytime someone drops out or we give you a replacement. The reason is just that we have so many special elections going on back to back, and we can't display all of them in the portal at once. So unfortunately, a lot of information that you would expect to find there normally is going to be done outside of the portal. Arash will talk about this in a little bit, but you should have already been emailed your roster for election day. We're going to be keeping you up to date by email for any changes to that information.
No, I don't hear anybody either.
The stuff that we do have available on the portal is our static content. That is still up. Like I said, the Chief's Notebook is available on the portal. That is updated for this election, as well as one-page guides for all of our tasks that I mentioned earlier in the precinct, and our online on-demand courses if you want to review those at your own leisure. Those still are available. Those are online there. There are a couple things I do want to mention about our polling places for this election, and that schools are in session. I'm actually going to turn it on over to Beth Methvessel, our clerk to the Electoral Board and polling place coordinator, to talk about some specifics that you want to be aware of and keep in mind for this election. Beth?
Thank you, Sean, and thank you all for being part of the Chief's briefing today. As Sean mentioned, this is a small election on our part. The bulk of it is in Alexandria and Arlington, but we still have a very robust roster of polling locations. We've got a couple of neighborhood and community services locations, a couple of Fairfax County public school locations, and a couple of private locations. So the two schools that will be involved, as has been mentioned, school is in session, and those locations are well aware that the election will go forward with students in school. The locations have been inspected. It's Glen Forest Elementary and Bailey's Elementary, and I'll say a little bit more about Bailey's in a minute. But I think that the plan at those schools will work really well, and we will have signage directing voters to the entrances, which may not be the same entrance that voters are used to. We've done this in the previous three or maybe even four special elections, and it has worked very well. As I said, the site inspection information will be sent out to you with your precinct information. So please take a moment and read that, because there's some helpful information in there for setting up your precinct, as well as any notes on parking that may be helpful. As I said, we will provide a large A-frame to direct and redirect voters from their usual entrance. So now the bottom point here, precinct 506, which is Holmes precinct. They normally vote in the Colmore Community Library. However, that library has closed for reconstruction and renovation. And as such, we have submitted and the Department of Elections has accepted the emergency relocation at Bailey's Elementary School. The upside is that most of the voters that vote at Holmes used to vote at Bailey's Elementary School. They are adjoining properties. The address is actually almost the same, so it's within walking distance. But as a result, we will be posting a sign at the library as required by law, directing voters just pretty much across the street to the Bailey's Elementary School. And at Bailey's, once again, they are ready for Holmes voters. And so I think that should be a pretty smooth process. The voters at Holmes have also been notified by mail that their polling place has been relocated to Bailey's Elementary School. So that covers pretty much the FCPS facilities.
Thanks, Beth. And remember that they are going to be in session, so you may have to work with your people you've been in contact with at the schools just to make sure the day goes smoothly. For other things that are new, well, I guess this isn't quite a new thing. It's a recent thing that I want to remind people of. We do have one EPB case for the precinct. We used to have one for each poll pad itself. Now there's one for each precinct. So that changes the way that you handle those. There'll be just one place for a seal on your machine certification form, and one thing to seal at the end of the day, one thing to pack everything into. So just be aware of that. This does require some slightly different, I'll say very slightly different procedures for packing these EPBs that election officers in the past haven't had to practice. And that's really just attaching or really assembling the EPB, all the pieces of it together. You can see it's a pretty simple process. You just have to attach it, and it is on our guide, but just be aware that since this is a recent change, it may still be new to a lot of our election officers. One final thing I'll mention is that for small special elections like this, voters have been notified that there is a special election coming in, so they may come in with that notice by mail that there's an election in their district. Take a look at your voter ID chart, because mailings that we send would be acceptable voter IDs, and give us a call if you have any questions. Before we go on to the next section, I think I saw that our General Registrar, Eric, had joined the briefing. I want to pause here and ask Eric, are you able to, are you able to connect, and is there anything you want to mention to our chiefs here? Looks like Eric might be having some connection issues. We'll give him a chance to jump in later.
Yeah, I
Um,
would say, hey, Sean, I was talking to Eric and he can hear us, but we can't hear him. So if he can get back on later, I will let you know.
Thanks, Anne. It'd be great to hear from Eric and hear what sort of words he's got to offer here. Stay tuned. Hopefully, we'll be able to get in touch with him by the end of this. But for now, I'm going to turn it on over to Arash, our election officer manager, to talk about the days leading up to election day in this coming week. Arash?
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you all so much for joining us and for your almost perpetual flexibility with this special election. So we've had to move some things around. Some things are not as we typically would be running them with full functionality, portal, and so on. So just want to take a second and say thank you to everyone who has still made this work. And it's great to see so many of you again so soon. I've seen you in the last month or two. So a lot of this is going to sound very similar, but let's just get through it. I just want to make sure that we don't miss it. So first things first, as you've heard me say many times already, probably, is that please make sure that you are saving this phone number to your contacts list and this email and adding it to your contacts or adding it to a whitelist from your email so that we don't get sent to spam or junk folders. We're almost exclusively using email communication and upkeep of a lot of the same matters you would normally be using the portal for. So it's very, very important that certain communications don't get missed. We're letting all of your election officers know to be checking their emails once a day. So we want to make sure that you yourselves also are not missing any important messages from them. This is something that we've talked about as well before. Normally, you would have a portal as a way to be able to keep up with your checklist, but currently, just rely on your Chief's notebook for that. It's going to be relatively fluid. At this point, we don't have the same timelines and deadlines we would normally have. So we can go a little bit more into detail about that. But for example, a little bit later today, you're going to be getting an email with a few pieces of information, such as your chief briefing quiz. That's going to be something that you're going to have 48 hours. And so until the end of the day, Thursday, the 5th to complete. And then we're also going to have the supply and pickup form sent to you in the same email. And you have until the end of the day, Friday, the 6th, to that because we're coming up, we're a week away from the election. So thank you all so much for everything that you've been doing so far to stay on track. We really, really appreciate again your compliance to all that, and just we're doing a great job keeping up with this checklist. Speaking of contacting your polling place, we did send you the information last regarding your roster and your polling place info to give you a little bit of a head start. So you did have a little bit more than a week to get started with that. You'll be getting another updated list of your roster, and that is going to be one that is going to be more, I guess, linked to something live so that if there are any changes, you should be able to see that there's someone new on your list. So please make sure to keep checking that. But as for your polling place contact, that is going to be the same person as in your email. If you're having any issues contacting them or getting in touch with them to coordinate a site visit or to confirm some of the details that we've been talking about during this briefing regarding parking access or amenities, let us know as soon as possible so we can get into that with you. But otherwise, as people start to drop out of your rosters, you'll be hearing from us if there's anything that's needed, and the rest of the process you're familiar with pickup and setup. So speaking of, as all of you know, you're going to be coming to Fairfax County Government Center, not the normal depot that you would be going to out in the Mason District. So you are going to be setting a pickup time for your supplies and also your setup time at your polling place. Please make sure that you are not creating too much of a large window of time between the two. We want you to be able to pick up your supplies here and head straight to your polling place to set up. And if there's any issues with logistics, also please let us know as soon as possible. We'll see if there's anything we can do to accommodate. With your Chief's notebook, which I'm sure most of you already have one from one last few elections. It's a great time to review chapters 14 and 15 again, so that if there is an emergency, if there is some sort of thing that would require immediate action on your part, you are well versed and prepared, and not having to thumb through and try to find what to do in a what if situation with that kind of thing. So at this point, we have gotten to election day. We are getting everything set up in the morning to get to go. You want to make sure that when you arrive, you have not yet opened up your orange pouch. So on the day of setup on Monday, you are going to have an orange pouch. You do not want to open that. That's just a reminder. What that has in it is your equipment keys, your password card, and your voter permit cards. It's very, very important that they stay in the orange pouch until election morning. So speaking of election morning, when you are setting up, just as a reminder, with as small of election turnout this may be, we still are requiring everyone to basically set up both of your ballot scanners, even if you're not going to be using one of them. The ballot scanners both need to be set up, and you need to press go to voting mode on both of them at 6 a.m. Now, we trust you that you will know what your turnout's going to look like. You may turn one of them around so that only one of them is used throughout the day. That's also usually a great practice for if something happens at the end of the night, you have a spare ballot scanner that can then be used to scan your ballots, and you're not further delayed. But also, it is also a backup in case you get very busy. Same thing with your ballot marking device. Even if you never have seen anyone use it, we want to make sure we're accommodating and accessible to all of our voters. So please make sure you're setting it up and putting it in an accessible location. In your morning meeting with your officers, you want to make sure that you are going over not only your emergency procedures, but letting them know, as they may be rotating through positions, where the evacuation guide for each one of their positions will be, and encourage them to go over that and just review it. You're going to want to make sure that you know going into election day, both through your own coordination with the polling place contact, as well as just from your experience in that precinct, where would be the designated outside meeting location, and filling those out so that you're ready. Hopefully you'll never need it, but it's one of those things that you want to make sure is ready. After your voting equipment is turned on, everyone has been sworn in, and good to go before 6 a.m. We want you to let us know no earlier than 5:30 if no one is if one of your election officers has not shown up. We want to give them up until around that time to show up, and then it's really a matter of discretion of if they are still there to complete the rest of the day. But if they have shown up by 5:30, we can just mark them as late. Just make sure that they sign the oath, and you're giving them the oath. But if after 5:30 they have not shown up, please give us a call at the office, and we'll send you a reserve officer. On the inside of the cover of your Chief's notebook, I'm sure you heard us say over and over, we have 3 separate numbers for 3 distinct types of issues you may have. The most general support number is for the most general of issues that come straight to us. You can call after 5:30, like we said, for a reserve officer, but also if you have any particular questions that don't fall under the next 2 categories, such as voter support. This could be anything related to a voter. This could be voter registration issues, STR and provisional questions, and things about specific voters. Because we are dealing with so many overlapping elections, people are getting mail ballots they're going to be bringing in to potentially vote in person, and it may show something different, or they may bring in the wrong one. We don't want you to feel like you're on your own to handle these. Please feel free to give us a call. We can help to kind of guide you through them. If someone shows that they've had a mail ballot issue and they assert they have not, please don't feel like you are stuck in the middle of something. Please give us a call and we can help guide you through what to do. And finally, if there's any equipment issues, please don't call our main number or even your rover. We want you to call our tech support number, because the tech support can not only walk you through and triage right then and there, but they can then dispatch your rover or any other person that may need to come out. And those kind of things are important to be logged on our end, so that if you call ever again, we can see a record of this potential issue that we can follow. And now we're on election day. We're going throughout the day. Let's move on to the next slide. As I'm sure you all remember, at 9, 12, and 3 p.m., we ask you to use your admin tablets to fill out your turnout surveys. This is something that if you end up having any sort of issues completing, whether it's because of technical issues or because of turnout, you will be hearing from us maybe 10 or 15 minutes after those check-in times to just check in. So if there are any technical issues you might be having with your admin tablet, you've already tried swiping up the app and opening it again, and it's still not giving you the option to do so, give us a call. We're going to be able to help walk you through it. This is a very important thing, especially with only 7 precincts, that we get 7 entries for all 3 of these check-ins. Inside your Chief's Notebook on page 1.6, this is something that's also good for everyone to review, is your authorized representative guide that just goes into detail about what members will be potentially showing up to your precinct and will be having access to certain things. One thing for any of you Eagle Eye viewers on there, will notice that Chef Shapiro is still listed on this. This is the Chief Notebook page from November. Just keep that in mind. Yours would be more up to date. But also, this is a situation where if you have someone like the media or a candidate show up, it goes into more specific cases for what you should be able to provide them without having to delay anyone or call us. But we're still here if you need assistance. And finally, just as a little bit of a flow chart, if there is a life-threatening or medical emergency, call 911. Don't delay calling us or anything else. Call 911, triage, and address the matter. Then please give us a call and let us know what's happened. We'd like to know as soon as possible, but once everyone is safe and everything has been more or less handled in the moment. For anything else that requires an urgent response from our office or to update us on a previous situation, give us a call on the general support number. And finally, speaking of medical or life-threatening emergencies, in your red emergency envelope, you will find this form. We hope that none of you will have to use this, but if in case you do, this is something that it could happen to your voter, an election officer, anyone else inside your polling place within the 40-foot line. If there's a fall, any kind of emergency, you want to make sure that you're filling out this form before the person leaves the premises. We want to make sure to be able to follow up with them the next day and check in on them. So thank you in advance for your attention to this. And again, it's in the red emergency envelope. And with that, I'm going to kick it back to Sean for some information about your non-routine and provisional.
Thanks, Arash. While this might be a small election, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about non-routine and provisional voters, because there are many reasons a voter can be a non-routine voter, and you may very well have them on election day. Because there are so many reasons, we don't have time to go through each and every one of them, but I do want to highlight the resources you have available to help you on election day. In your notebook, Chapter 8 is titled Non-Routine and What Ifs. This contains an overview of many different non-routine categories for voters, things that and the actions you might take, as well as the What Ifs, which is a helpful how-to guide prepared by the Department of Elections that we customize a little bit so it can fit into our notebook and match our voting equipment. That's going to be in there. There are 23 of those for various circumstances, situations. Those have the full entire, written out list of steps to take for any given non-routine situation. That's going to be the place to ultimately refer to for the full in-depth explanation. I do want to remind you that on the EPBs, on your e-poll books, for voters who have a status or a prompt in their record, that we can display. You'll have those that will display to your election officers and on your EPBs. For instance, for this example, a voter has returned their absentee by mail ballot, and we have already pre-processed it. So you can see here it tells you what the situation is, what the election officer should do. In most cases, that's going to be to send to the chief or the assistant chief, and what the chief or assistant chief should do. You can see here it tells you what you can do for that voter, which for this example would be to give them a provisional ballot with reason number 5. Tells you what section to use on the voter referral worksheet, tells you which what if you can refer to for more information. It reminds you that if you're ever in trouble, you can give us a call. The full list of all of the prompts that are on the EPB for all the different statuses a voter can have are in the Chief's notebook, and you can refer to those at your leisure if you wish. When working through a non-routine voter, we do have a voter referral worksheet that is required for situations that are likely to become provisional. That's kind of a murky category. I can rephrase that. Any voter who has an absentee status on the poll book would be the first category, category A. And then voters who are marked as already voted, voters who are not on the poll book at all, or they have moved from the address on the poll book. So the address that they give orally or in writing doesn't match what we have as their registered address. Or if you're unsure and you want a place to write down what advice we give you for any voter situation not covered by the above. The above situations, those situations we just outlined, are likely to or could possibly become a provisional ballot depending on the voter's circumstances. The voter referral worksheet, as a reminder, is a two-sided document. The first side is intended to help you come to a decision for that voter for any of those three categories, and gives you a place to write down information you would need to make that determination as the chief or the assistant chief. So for example, with a voter who's not registered to vote at all, you can write down their address and write down the precinct that corresponds to it, which you can look up in the precinct and address lookup app on your admin tablet. Because the one thing that's most important for a same-day registration is that it is in the precinct where the voter lives. And what you need to do is make sure that's your precinct. And so that gives you a spot to write down that information. Additionally, as you're probably aware, as you're hopefully aware, there are moving conditions, moving rules, where if a voter has moved between precincts and they're already registered, they may have additional options. Those can be sometimes tricky to walk through. And so the voter referral worksheet gives you a place to write down the information that you need to reference when deciding to give, when deciding whether to issue a provisional ballot or if the voter is eligible to vote in your precinct. Once you've made that determination, if they are indeed going to be offered a provisional ballot, if you're going to do that for them, on the backside, you have a place to check what the reason is, what reason code applies. So at reason code number 1 is same-day registration. Every other reason are the other reason codes. Those are on the back. In larger elections, your provisional specialist would take it from here and do this 12-step checklist to make sure that every step of the provisional process is completed. In small elections like this, the chief and the assistant chief will pair up to take care of this, and you can work through who's taking care of these duties for what makes the most sense for your precinct. This checklist makes sure that every part of the process is followed, so be sure to refer to this. Like we said earlier, we want to make sure that you have to memorize as little as possible. So this checklist tells you the steps of voting provisionally and the steps to take with the voter, as well as walks you through checking that the voter has provided all of the required information on their provisional ballot application. Talking about a couple of common non-routine situations. From experience, you may recognize that these are some of the more common things that happen in precincts depending on the election. SDR is more and more becoming one of our most common reason for people to vote provisionally. And that's if a voter has not registered to vote, so they're not at all on your electronic poll book, or if they've moved into your precinct. Like I said earlier, they need to live in your precinct in order to be eligible to do a same-day registration. And for folks who missed the deadline to update their registration, which is before Election Day, they may not be aware that they had to register before Election Day. The other one that happens often is a voter will bring their absentee ballot to surrender and vote normally in their precinct. This is one of the what ifs. This wouldn't be a provisional ballot if they have a ballot to their by mail ballot to exchange to vote in the precinct. You can continue from there and give them a new ballot to vote. And of course, if they didn't have their ballot with them, they would have to vote provisionally. So those are some of the most common situations to be aware of, although there are others, like I talked about earlier. Just want to put mention those as the more likely ones to happen in elections or in any given election. The provisional envelope does have two sides to it, one side for SDRs, same-day registrations, and one side for any other provisional reason. So say the voter is marked as having already voted, or they don't have their absentee ballot with them or anything else. They would fill out the non-SDR side or the all other provisional reasons side. But if they're doing a same-day registration, they fill out the SDR side. It's important to make sure that that you instruct the voter to fill out the applicable side for them, because they have not the same information that are requested of the voters. You can see they're filled out slightly differently. And as a reminder, we have provisional overlays for you to put on top of the ballot envelope, on top of the envelope itself, so that when the envelope is filled out by the voter in blue or black, let's say this is in black ink, it would be even harder to tell if the voter has completed all of the required fields. Some fields have asterisks, some fields do not. If you put the plastic overlay that's packed in your kit on top of it, it will include all of the non-required information so you can focus and make sure that you've completed your section in the bottom left and in the top right, and that in the center, the voter has completed all of their required sections. If you see anything amiss here, you would just remove the overlay and double check that the voter has completed all required sections, and they can correct any omissions if you see any here. It's just a helpful tool for you, just a reminder that you do have that to help you check or double check that a voter has provided all the required information. Now, they're not foolproof. You do still have to examine the envelope. So for instance, a mistake that we see sometimes is a voter will be going down the envelope and they'll just be checking boxes. If you don't read carefully, you may miss that question 3 is asking, have you been convicted of a felony or judged mentally incapacitated and disqualified to vote? The voter must answer yes or no. And as you can see, there is a secondary question. If yes, it asks you a second question, have your rights been restored? So if the voter says yes, they must answer that second question, while the overlay just highlights the first no to that first question because it's what we see most commonly. Just keep in mind that the voter must answer the second question if they answer yes to that first question. So again, I want to say if anything looks amiss when you place that overlay on top, take it off and take another look because it's there to help you check. In terms of another common mistake, or another mistake I at least want to mention, with reason codes for voting provisionally. There is a reason for on the all other provisional reasons, the non-SDR side of the envelope, reason number 6, other. I do want to mention that that's pretty rare. In our experience, oftentimes when reason code number 6 is used, that could have been another provisional reason. Say the voter said that they registered 2 days ago and they're confused why they're not showing up on the poll book. Well, they're not on your poll book and they're in your precinct. Those would generally be an SDR. Like I said, there is a close of books before every election where updates can't be made to people's registration. So if you have a reason code number 6 or you're about to issue one, feel free to give us a call. We can walk you through common provisional reasons or help you work through anything. But there is also a spot on the voter referral worksheet in the provisional log for you to let us know or clarify if a voter insists on voting in your precinct and maybe they don't live in your precinct. You can provide us more information about that. During the day, provisional ballot envelopes will go into your green provisional bag. This is part of your setup, your procedures. You'll place this at the Chiefs or provisional table. This gets sealed at the start of the day, and then importantly, you can't open it throughout the day. So one thing I would suggest is as you are going through the provisional process and you are on one of the steps of the checklist to enter it into the provisional log, make a little check in the top right of the envelope so you know it's okay to put into this provisional bag. So you don't have to reconcile it at the end of the day. You open this at the start of the day, and all provisionals will go in here throughout the day, SDR and non-SDR. Gene will talk about what to do in the next section here at the end of the day when you're good to pack up your provisionals. But just remember, throughout the day, they go in the green provisional bag, green for provisional.
Thanks, Sean. The polls are closed. The last voter, assuming you have 1 or 2 in line, has left the room and it's time to close, get through the closing process. This is the time when you want to take a breath, get a drink of water, and just get yourself collected. You're gonna get through this process by following all your checklists for everything. And just remember, we are a phone call away and we can make sure that you're going to get closed in a reasonable time frame. But most importantly, don't hurry. Rushing through closing is how mistakes happen. The first thing you're going to do is close your ballot scanners. When you opened them in the morning, I'm sure you turned one of them around because your turnout isn't going to be high enough that you're going to need to use both scanners. But what you're going to want to do at closing is close the scanner that you used first. Do the whole process start to finish, all the way closed. Then start closing the second scanner, the one that you did not use, the one that's been turned around all day. The reason for that is if anything goes wrong during the closing of the first scanner that you used, you've got that second one ready to go as a backup just in case. And if anything does happen while you're closing either scanner, call that tech support number on the front inside cover of your notebook. Don't try to figure out what you think you should do. They know the machines super well, and they can figure out what's the best approach to handle your situation. Another thing to watch out for when you're closing your scanners is wait until the scanner is completely shut down and powered off before you pull the USB flash drives. You may recall that the scanner has 2 flash drives in it, and if you pull them out too soon, it can corrupt the data on the flash drives. You don't want that to happen because then you may be ordering pizza and scanning all your ballots into the other scanner. So we don't want that to happen. Everyone's tired. Just the collector officers they're going to be okay. I know they're chomping at the bit to leave, especially since they're driving to the government center. But just wait. They'll get the flash drives and everything will be fine. And like I said, if you've got a problem, call tech support. And if you do have any machine problems, please be sure to document that in your chief's notes. A little more on those flash drives. There's 2 of them in each scanner, as I said. One has got a purple label, the other has a white label. Like just about everything we do to try to eliminate errors, they're color-coded. Drives with purple labels go into purple pouches, and drives with white labels go into white envelopes. It's really important that the right thing go into the right place. This is your responsibility as the chief to do this. The collector officers are not going to be running over to the scanner and pulling those drives out. That's the team that's closing the scanner. They're going to hand those drives to you to put in the correct place and to seal these envelopes, seal these pouches, etc. Just follow your closing checklist and you'll get everything right. Do notice that the purple pouch has a seal on it that goes through the grommet and then also through the zipper pull so that the zipper cannot be opened. Now let's talk for just a moment about the provisional specialist closing. 2 people are going to open that provisional bag and they're going to sort the envelopes into an SDR pile and a non-SDR pile, and then they're going to independently count those envelopes. You're not going to have a ton because it's a special election, but there'll be a few. And just as another, those are going to go onto your closing numbers worksheet along with a number of other things. You're going to put those envelopes in the appropriate 1A envelope. So all the green envelopes you did during the day go in the green bag, and at the end of the night, they come out, they go into the green envelopes. See what we did there? Color coding. And to answer a question that we get asked frequently, and it's a great question, is yes, you will return all your envelopes 1A, even if you don't use them. So let's say you had SDRs, but no non-SDRs. You're still going to send back 2 1A envelopes, and they are going to be fully sealed, write the stuff on the outside, just as if there were things inside. And the reason we do that is to know kind of affirmatively that there was nothing in that envelope. So do always return all your 1A envelopes. The collector officers are going to be the first people to leave. While they have been waiting for the flash drives and the purple pouch to be prepared by you and the green envelopes, they're going to be disassembling the Dropbox and preparing the chain of custody form and trip lock bag. Just like the 1A envelopes, even if you have no ballots in your Dropbox, they're still going to fill out that chain of custody form and write 0 and put that into the trip lock bag. A little tip for the collector officers, and this is on their 1-page guide, please remind them to tear the receipt strip off the top first before you seal the bag. Otherwise, it gets a little messy. If they get it wrong, that's fine. Just give us a call. We'll walk you through the process for that. And just a reminder that the collector officers are going to be taking a purple pouch along, the trip lock bag, and your envelopes 1A. Any co-located precincts, I believe we have one for this election. They're going to have double of everything. So that's 2 pouches, 4 envelopes, 2 bags. Unless you may have shared a drop box in that case, you would have 1 trip lock bag containing a forms. I'm sorry. If you shared a drop box, you're going to return both bags, but one bag is going to say there were no ballots. If you have any questions about that, just give us a call on election night. We'll walk you through that. As Sean mentioned earlier, the e-poll books are now packed in one single large case instead of having one case for each poll book. So here's a little packing guide to help you know where to put everything. And it distributes the weight a little better, makes it a little easier to carry and lift if you pack things towards the center of the case, as we show in this example. It keeps the weight towards the middle of it. The statement of results is the most important document of the day. So even though it's been simplified a great deal over the years, it's still something that seems a little intimidating occasionally. So we have a tool that makes this incredibly easy. After that closing numbers worksheet has been passed around to the various closing teams, they're going to give this to you or the assistant chief. Either one can do this. On the admin tablet, open up the SOR helper, plug in the numbers. It just walks you through it step by step. It does all the math, and then at the end, it's going to show you an image of a filled in SOR. Very, very important. Now copy the numbers from the screen onto both copies of your SOR. We don't want to get back SORs that are blank or just filled out on the front side or just the back side. Please, it's the most important document of the day. Let's get 100% on this for this election. There's only 7 of you precincts out there. I think we can do this. If you get stuck, give us a call. We'll walk you through this. We don't want you sitting there just churning, not sure what to do. Give us a call. We'll make sure that you can get out of there at a reasonable time. Our hardworking voting equipment team would like to point out that how you pack your cage actually does matter. They put a lot of effort into creating these packing guides for you. And if you follow them, you won't end up with hazardous situations like you see with on the left, where you've got metal frames sticking out of the cage, which could poke somebody's eye out. Always makes me think of Christmas Story when I say that. But it is hazardous for the people who load the cages on and off of the delivery trucks. So we don't want to do that. Another thing to keep in mind when you're packing your cage is make sure you can get those slide bolts engaged at the top of the doors and at the bottom of the doors. It can be hard to do. If you have any trouble doing that, please call your rover for help, and he will come over and help you with that. Sometimes you kind of have to wiggle the doors a bit to get things to line up so that you can get that slide bolt up and then the one at the bottom of the cage to get that one go down. And the reason is, as you can see in this image on the left, if that's not engaged, that door can come open even though it's been padlocked, and the contents can shift and actually fall out of the cage. We've seen blue bags fall down in front of the ballot scanners, which is not great. So the cage is packed, locked up. You've loaded your car. All right, time to leave. Yay! You are going to return 5 things to your depot. First of all, you're going to come to the Fairfax County Government Center, not to the depot that you are accustomed to using in your precinct. Sorry for that longer drive. And you're going to return 5 things. This is the black kit, the 1 green e-poll books case, your box of number 3 voted ballots, your box of number 6 blank ballots, and your chief supply return form. This is a chain of custody form. You're saying, I'm bringing to the government center these things. This needs to be filled out before you come to the government center. If you arrive at the depot and it's not filled out, we're going to just have you pull off to the side and fill that out so that you don't hold up any of the other chiefs behind you who've already got their paperwork done. Please also remember to call or text your rover when you leave. They can't go home until they know all the precincts on their route have shut down and are on their way to the depot. I'm sure Leonard would very much appreciate it. That's your rover. And one other thing, you're only returning these 5 things that you see on the slide right now, not your blue bag. Long time ago, we did bring blue bags back here, but we haven't done that for quite a while. So blue bag, if somebody's handing that to put in your car, it's like, whoop, wait a minute, that's supposed to go in the cage. So we always say this and we harp on it all the time. Follow your checklist. If you do that, you're good to go. And now we're going to turn it back over to Sean for the oath and final reminders.
Thanks, Gene. Before we jump into that, I just want to see if Eric Spicer, our General Registrar and Director of Elections, are you available? Were you able to connect? And is there anything you want to mention before we move on? I see Eric's unmuted, but everybody always has technical difficulties here and there. If not, that's okay. We'll move on to some final reminders here. Remember that the election officer portal is not in place for this election, so be on the lookout for emails from us, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions, especially about your roster, as we're 1 week out from Election Day. And reminder that we're going to be sending you a link to a quiz for this briefing for to confirm your attendance, as well as a link to select your pickup time for next Monday to pick up supplies here from the Fairfax County Government Center. Be on the lookout from that. Be on the lookout for those soon here. With that, we're going to do the oath. So I will now administer this oath to you as chief and assistant chief so that you can administer it to your election officers on election morning. If you please repeat along with me and hold up your right hand. I do solemnly swear that I will perform the duties for this election according to law and the best of my ability, and that I will studiously endeavor to prevent fraud, deceit, and abuse in conducting this election. Thank you and congratulations. You're now sworn in as a chief or an assistant chief, as an election officer for this election, and you'll have your election officers take the same oath, or they'll take their oath on election morning when they fill out their when you guys fill out the election officer oath. As I mentioned, we're going to be sending you a link to receive credit for watching this briefing. The due date for that is going to be Thursday, this upcoming Thursday, February 5th. Please go ahead and do that at your leisure. Don't delay. Should just be a quick quiz to confirm that you attended this briefing and that you are good to go. I'll move on here to questions and answer, Q&A in just a second here. As a reminder, feel free to use the Q&A feature on Zoom to send anything over if you want it answered live here, or you're always welcome to email it on over to electionofficers@fairfaxcounty.gov, or give us a call during business hours, or you can leave us a message. We're happy to help and we're here to help. Before I do that though, I want to ask Flo here how early voting and vote by mail has been going for this election next week. Flo?
Thanks, Sean. Hi, everybody. Greetings again from early voting, and you know my motto, where every day is election day, and that has continued to be the case. We have 2 early voting sites open for Senate District 39, Mason Governmental Center and Fairfax County Government Center. We opened on Saturday, January 31st, and through yesterday, we've seen 72 people come to vote with us, all but 2 voting at Mason. So we expected smaller numbers, and that has proved to be the case, but we're happy to see the folks that we're seeing. If any of you are part of Senate District 39 and still need to vote, you have until Saturday. Early voting ends on Saturday, February 7th. And then if you're assigned to your home precinct, then of course you can vote. But we are here and ready to receive your vote if you want to come and see us either here at Government Center or at Mason Governmental Center. As Sean mentioned, I'll also fill you in on the absentee mail ballot status. Ben Howard, our absentee ballot manager, wasn't able to join us today, but he asked me to let you know that about 1,300 ballots were mailed for Senate District 39. They went out on Friday, January 30th. But also out there in voter land, we have about 8,000 ballots for the March 3rd Braddock District special election for school board member. So there's two sets of ballots out there. The good news is that if you have a voter who comes in and asks if they can drop off either ballot, then they can do that. They can drop it in the drop box. We'll take care of sorting it on our end here in the office. But one reminder is that if someone comes into your precinct on Tuesday, they need to exchange a Senate 39 ballot in order to vote in your precinct receive a new Senate 39 ballot. So they can't bring in a Braddock ballot and then vote in the Senate district. Um, these two elections, while they overlap in terms of time, they don't overlap in terms of the voters and the voters who are eligible. And also, all of the voters who are eligible for their respective elections, they've received postcards. So everybody should be informed of what they're available to vote in or what they're eligible to vote in. And then the last thing we have, just to show you what the envelopes look like, and hopefully everybody can see this. Ooh, is it blurry? It's still blurry.
We
Hang
can see
on.
it. We can see it there just a little bit, Flo. I think it
Hang.
said 39, right?
Yep, hold on. Here we go. How about that? Better? Okay. So this is the Senate 39 envelope, and as you can see right here, it says the 39. And then also you've got the Braddock envelope, and that has the S here, and then it also says Braddock right up here. I know the YouTube influencers do that a little bit better with their hands and all of that sort of thing. But just, oops, come on. Sorry about that. I just wanted to show you what it looked like. If I can get my camera to come back on. Okay, there we go. So in terms of returns, we've had about 1,500 Braddock ballots come back. And none have come back yet from Senate 39, but we are waiting on mail to be picked up. So we'll probably get some envelopes back this week. And that's about all I have for in-person early voting and also absentee mail ballots. Back to you, Sean. Thank you.
Thanks, Flo. Jean, do we have any questions that we want to go ahead and address here?
Yeah, we have a couple. I've got one for Beth. For precincts that are located in schools, can you give us any tips about helping us manage accessibility for voters to get to the voting room during periods of student arrival and student dismissal? You know, in some of these schools, of course, the parking is kiss and ride, and the elementary schools just don't have that much parking. But we're just concerned about making sure that the voters don't get blocked in for an hour during an arrival or dismissal.
Yeah, that is a question I have been kind of pondering over a little bit because it is a challenge to when a voter arrives during drop off or dismissal. The upside is drop off is very short. It's usually about 10 or 15 minutes in the morning. These cars move very quickly through the kiss and ride because of course the kids are going into school and they need to be on time. In both schools, I can say, as I think I said earlier, that it is the kiss and ride where voter parking is located. It's better than the bus lane because when it's located off the bus lane, generally at drop off and dismissal, nobody goes in except for the buses. But the kiss and ride, there is accessibility. So they're not going to close that. So it will be a slower process if voters come during those times, but they still will have access. there's not really anything the election team can do to facilitate that other than possibly reminding the school that if somebody pulls in and doesn't want to get stuck in the kiss and ride line, that they say, I'm here to vote, and then they would be able to move out of that line and go and park. Because normally the rules for kiss and ride is once you get in the line, you're supposed to stay in the line. You're not supposed to leave it. So that could be helpful. I think with the configuration of these schools, I do believe that well, I know the voter parking at Bailey's, if it's where I think it should be, I don't think voters will be blocked in. And same with Glen Forest. Just the way the aisles are set up, there the kiss and ride line does not go behind those cars. So I think everything will work really well, despite the fact that we do have to accommodate drop off and dismissal.
Thanks, Beth. Every polling place is unique and has its own challenges. It just never ceases to amaze me how many variations we have. With 232 polling places across the county, I think we have 232 unique situations.
That's true.
Our final question will go to Sean. Is it possible to pick up Chief's notebook in advance for this election?
Sure. Thanks for the question. We do have the Chiefs notebooks here at our office. If you want to come pick one up, just let us know you're coming. Give us a call. You can come pick one up early if you want your physical copy. If you don't pick one up, we're going to pack it in your black kit for you. And it is available on our election officer portal if you just want to refer to it. Ordinarily, in larger elections, we would give them out during the Chiefs open house. But as you're already aware, for a small special election like this, we don't have one of those scheduled. So we'll have to play that one a little bit by ear. So if you want to pick it up early, let us know. But it'll be packed in your black kit. And if you have a recent one from a recent election, like I mentioned before, very, very little has changed. And it is substantially similar if you're just looking for the text to refer to. Thanks. Oh, and I think that was the last question you mentioned, right, Jean?
Yes,
Okay.
it was.
So with that, thank you everyone for joining us today. We've gone for about an hour here, so we appreciate your time here this afternoon. And next week, you'll be in your precinct this afternoon. So have a great election day. We look forward to seeing you soon. And in the coming few days, in the next week, if anything comes up, feel free to give us a call or send us an email. We're here to help and we're here to support you. And thanks for serving, especially when we have all these special elections. Thanks, everyone.